Going back to drug use in your video about reining, I would like to see a deep dive on drug use in the horses in the Western world. We have a barrel racer local to me who has even been to the NFR, who I and others have witnessed beating her horses in the trailer, and she's open on social media about giving them sedatives before running the pattern. I, also a barrel racer, was outraged knowing someone is running 3 to 5-year-olds on the pattern on ACE. I myself have dived through all of the rules and found nothing. I feel as though this is something that needs to be more brought to life. Someone sent that into my podcast forum and I decided to just use it here because this video is already being made. Now, when people suggest topics or make requests, a lot of the time it's something that's been covered or there's a group actively raising awareness about the issue. I was only able to find 2 articles about this. 2. So now's the time for another confession. I've tinkered in barrel racing. In fact, had my coach not been so busy with training horses, I probably would have ended up doing it more seriously instead of going down the pleasure horse path. I know, big opposites those two, but I like a lot of variety, leave me alone. My coach was pretty good. He had a sound horse in his 20s, still clocking 1D times with an incredibly competitive youth rider. You could bet on his group in the Calcutta and be pretty dang sure you'd be walking home with some cash at the end of it. I can say that there was never a mention of drugs for better performance. Sure, he encouraged new feeding programs, tips, prospects, and even at one time trying to trade my horse for another we liked. But never doping. In fact, I had never even heard anything about doping from anyone. I can't say that for the pleasure events, where at my first 4-H fair with my horse, my mom was offered ACE because my 25-year-old still got real spicy. Hell, we were so new into this, we didn't even know what ACE was at the time. So I admit, when everyone started piping up about the drug issues in barrel racing, I really thought maybe it was a localized problem for 1 or 2 people, but then 2 people became 3 and 3 people became 4. Suddenly there were numerous people asking for a spotlight on this issue, and most of them were barrel racers. Well, that's a little funny, I thought to myself, so I started dipping a toe into the waters. And oh boy, was I wrong. I think significant awareness started coming to this issue when someone posted a TikTok from the Pink Buckle Barrel Race. In it, every single competitor interviewed used Lasix. Probably the crowning moment of this TikTok is when the vet states even if the horses didn't need it, they ran on it.
This is Dustin Angel. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, ma'am.
Alrighty. This is Stevie Hillman. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, I do.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah.
This is Cassie Mary kicking ass at Pink Buckle. Do you run on Lasix?
It depends on the horse, but yes. I am definitely a fan of Lasix.
Alright, thank you. This is Dr. Don Lee. So how often do you prescribe Lasix?
We run pretty much a lot of horses on a little bit of Lasix, even ones that don't bleed, it kind of has a preventative.
Perfect. Thanks, sir. Brandon Collins, do you run on Lasix? Okay, thank you. Hallie Hansen here. Do you run on Lasix?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, this is Emily Eford. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, we run everything on Lasix.
Okay, thank you. This is Jamie Hunt. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, thank you. This is Kay Blanford. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do.
All right, thank you. This is Scamper Hill. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Joey Montgomery. Do you run on Lasix?
90% of the time. If it's super hot, humid, they're a little fat, they're not super fat, yes. The only time I don't is if I've never seen them show any signs of bleeding, they're super fat, and it's not too hot or too cold.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. This is Dakota Monk. Do you run on Lasix?
Most definitely.
All right, thank you. This is Jody Miller. Jody, do you give Lasix?
Yes, everything I run gets Lasix because I run too many horses, and I think that it's an easy preventative.
Thank you. This is Carolyn Boucher. Do you run on Lasix?
The horse that needs to be run on, yes.
Perfect. Thank you. It's Taylor Hildreth. Do you run on Lasix?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I didn't spend enough time racing to ever join the organization, so I wasn't too savvy to their rules until recently, and what I found was shocking. The Women's Pro Rodeo Association certainly has among the strongest rules against the practice. No horse shall be ridden in competition at a WPRA-approved event if the horse has been administered a prohibited substance. Prohibited substances include any drug, stimulant, depressant, tranquilizer, local anesthetic, steroid, or masking drug, unless such a substance has been administered as a therapeutic measure for the protection of the health of the horse. Which, of course, is a vague enough definition. Their drug testing is also random. Events that will have testing are chosen at random, and the exhibitors in drug testing are also selected at random by essentially drawing straws. The AQHA has stringent anti-doping rules that prohibit the use of any medication, drug, or substance that could affect a horse's performance or appearance at an approved event, except for a list of conditionally permitted therapeutic medications administered within strict guidelines. They issue random drug testing as well. The International Barrel Racing Association, the IBRA, does have a vague rule against doping. Abuse of a horse in any way is prohibited. All IBRA members are subject to drug testing. Random tests may be performed throughout the year at IBRA-produced and approved events. By joining the IBRA, you agree to adhere to the guidelines set forth and accept that any animal you ride is subject to testing. There is no mention of which substances are allowed or forbidden. But the crown jewel of this lineup, the National Barrel Horse Association has, hold on to your seats with this revolutionary take, absolutely no guidelines or rules against drugging. The same is true for Battle Barrel Races and Barrel Futurities of America. I have a genuine question for those of you out there who barrel race under any of these organizations. If there's no standardization of pattern size, and there are few, if any, protections or rules against substance use in horses to the point that you can't truly tell who is consistently the best, why are you paying them? You're putting all of this time and money into organizations that won't even offer you the due courtesy of a level playing field. It just seems a little strange to be paying someone to participate in something to see who's the best when there's no standard. Regardless, the truth of the matter is that big money independent races are popping up all over the nation, Pink Buckle being one of them. Now let's catch those of you up who have no idea what I'm talking about. The Pink Buckle Barrel Race is a specifically noteworthy race because of the absolutely insane prize money involved. We're talking a minimum of a $4.2 million in prize money this year alone. Due to being an independent event, they have their own rules. At no point are prohibited substances mentioned. There's no mention of testing. The only rules they have in place concerning horse welfare involve abusive physical training, not doping. On top of that, entry fees for this race cost between $250 to $500 a pop. So again, if they don't even give you the basic consideration of a level playing field, why would you bother? After all, with a prize pool of $4.2 million, testing the winners of a race would be a possibility, and they certainly have the tools to either come up with a prohibited substances standard, or even just following the WPRA's lead in adopting USEF's policies. Well, the answer seems to be money.
Come on, I ain't asking for the world here. I'm just asking for an 8-ball and $2 million.
Hey guys, it's Trisha with Red Hot Running Horses here. So I just wanted to take a second to talk about Lasix. So it's a really taboo topic in the barrel horses for some reason, and I don't always understand why, because if you talk to a lot of vets that are down here, so like I'm in North Texas, which is basically the mecca of barrel racing. You know, you have probably the most concentrated of everything barrel racing here, whether it be barrel races or performance horse vets or whatever. So some of these vets here are going to see upwards of 30 horses per day that specifically do barrel racing. There are so many vets in Texas and down here that see nothing but barrel horses, and there's such a high risk of bleeding, and Lasix is just such a cheap, easy fix for that it's just not even worth not doing it. It's pretty much going to guarantee that your horse doesn't bleed. And at the end of the day, no matter how much conditioning you do, no matter what, for a horse that's going to be going fast, there's still a chance of them bleeding. And it's a very chronic thing in our industry. It's, you know, if you don't know about bleeding, you know, definitely do some research on it. But the point of all that is there's so much research out there for this that there should be no reason that anybody is like trying to badmouth Lasix, or that it's taboo anymore, or that it's you know, that if somebody says that their horse runs on Lasix, that should like kill the sale. So I know that this is a controversial topic, but any vet that I know down here is not going to hesitate to prescribe Lasix. So I am not a vet, of course, but I work very closely with many vets, and I don't know any vets down here that would tell you not to run on Lasix. I think sometimes that, you know, they might tell a trainer something a little different than they tell somebody with their little playday horse, you know, just because they don't want to explain it or deal with it sometimes is what I have found over the years. There's no reason to not be giving Lasix. So I know that a lot of people don't talk about this. You know, when I was first starting out, a lot of people like didn't tell me that that was like a thing. And then the more I got into it, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody that's doing any good in this sport gives Lasix. So it's really not a bad thing to talk about. You know, I give it 4 hours out. I pull hay and water. I do this because I have read a bunch of studies. It's a very safe drug to use. I definitely recommend that you talk to your vet about it, but let's have a discussion, because I feel like there's so much information out there. Ask these questions. If you have a vet that won't prescribe you Lasix, ask why, because there's tons of studies on barrel horses now that show you know, how much of a issue this is, and just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. So if you have a vet that tells you that they want to scope it 3 days after the show, you're wasting your money. Do the research, because if you do the research, you will see that nothing is proven to work except Lasix. So if you have questions, hit us up. I know this is always a controversial topic, but it's something that needs to be talked about. You don't have to agree with me, but talk to your vets. That's where you're going to find all your information at.
Okay, so I need us to think very critically here. She states that Texas is the mecca of barrel racing. She states that there are veterinarians who only service barrel horses. She states there are so many horses that are a high risk of bleeding, and that Lasix is such a cheap and easy fix that it's not even worth not doing it. She states that it's going to guarantee that the horse doesn't bleed. Remember that part specifically. She states that no matter how much conditioning you do, there's still a chance of a horse bleeding. She admits it's a chronic issue in the barrel racing industry, which I'm pretty sure she's stating explicitly in the United States, and I'll get into that important detail in a minute. She states that there's so much research out there for Lasix that there should be no reason anyone is trying to badmouth the drug, and that it shouldn't be taboo, and everyone should just accept it with open arms. She said there's not a vet where she is who's going to hesitate to give Lasix. Then she says they're going to treat a trainer a little differently than they're going to treat someone with a little playday horse. Now, y'all, I'm already highly suspicious of veterinarians that specialize to a discipline where it only incentivizes them to make sure your horses win. The fact that the vets will treat people differently depending on what they do or how seriously they take it, frankly tells me everything I need to know. Before anyone tries to jump into the comments to rattle the cage about how vets aren't corrupt, you can save your energy, because the articles you see flashing on your screen right now are numerous veterinarians, mostly involved in horse racing, that have been found guilty of doping corruption. Hell, it was the veterinarians who enabled biglet trainers for decades. Even if it wasn't corruption, which I do not believe, we know that there are genuinely fantastic veterinarians who are in it for the right reasons. We also know that there are horrible ones. At the end of the day, they're both still licensed. To just assume that each one of their opinions weighs the same, that they're both going to be as diligent as the next, is a recipe for trouble. I'm sure some of you are wondering right now, what is Lasix? Lasix is a brand of furosemide. It is basically a diuretic. It acts on the kidneys, blocking the reabsorption of sodium, potassium, and chloride ions. It causes a significant increase in urine production and fluid loss. That rapid fluid loss, which on the drug a horse can lose about 28 pounds of water weight in just a few hours, decreases the horse's blood volume, thus lowering the blood pressure to the pulmonary capillaries. By lowering blood pressure, Lasix helps reduce, important word here, reduce, the incidence and severity of exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, or EIPH, which is a condition where the capillaries in the lung burst due to strenuous activity. In North America, Lasix has been widely used as a legal race day medication on the track about 4 hours before a race, but there are efforts being made to phase out race day Lasix as it's already banned on race day in many countries, including the United Kingdom, Japan, and Germany. The great performance enhancement debate rages on. Proponents for it argue it's necessary for welfare to protect the horses prone to EIPH, allowing them to compete without long-term lung damage. Critics contend that it acts as a performance-enhancing drug due to rapid weight loss and other effects like bronchodilation and creates an unfair advantage. The side effects are as follows. Dehydration. Electrolyte imbalances the horse loses sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Increased thirst and urination. Increased risk of colic due to fluid loss in the intestinal tract. Oh, and according to one study, about a 62% chance of dropping dead after a race. Thoroughbred trainer Kieran McLaughlin, an advocate against the use of race day Lasix, said, "It's very interesting. For 2 years, we scoped every horse after they ran and most horses after they worked to see where they stood. And I have to say that less than 5% of the horses we ran without Lasix bled at all. Most people withhold water after a dose has been administered. Some studies are suggesting that furosemide decreases calcium absorption, but existing research is inconclusive on whether long-term administration can impact bone health. Studies are suggesting that Lasix could contribute to abnormal heart rhythms given the potassium depletion that occurs. Research proposes that furosemide might cause sudden death in horses due to fatal arrhythmia. Human research suggests that diuretic-induced electrolyte imbalances increase the risk of this condition. So, is Lasix a performance-enhancing drug? Some stakeholders argue that the weight loss associated with this diuretic enhances performance and creates an unfair advantage on race day. Lighter horses take longer to fatigue, and research shows that horses treated with furosemide expend less energy and have less lactic acid buildup after a race. Race records also show that horses on Lasix are more likely to win or finish in the top 3 of a race than a horse not on Lasix. Lasix also improves 6 furlong race times by a difference roughly equal to 3 to 5.5 lengths. Lasix does not stop EIPH. It's not a cure. It only might reduce the bleeding that results from it. But the buck doesn't just stop at Lasix, because of course it wouldn't. Barrel horses regularly perform while being actively medicated with painkillers, steroids, sedatives, and stimulants. Most other organizations have taken a stance against using all of the aforementioned drugs during competition, or regulate so that amount will be so low that most don't even bother using them in case of disqualification. Whether it's oversight, laziness, or apathy, we can't ignore that this issue is commonplace. Exhibitors state that drug rules will drive down entries, and some horses will be disqualified or retired. There's a refusal to acknowledge that adopting higher or any anti-doping standards is going to be beneficial. Barrel racing is already witnessing growing scrutiny as it's already an event under rodeo. Poor riding practices and extreme bits certainly aren't helping the perception of the sport, and unadulterated drug use is just the cherry on top of that sundae for animal rights groups that would sooner see it banned than push for reform. Like rubber bands and Velcro seats, drugs are just being used as another band-aid in place of horsemanship. And honestly, it's not making their horses any better. As of the recording of this video, the fastest time on a standard pattern in the United States is 16.479. On that same pattern, with much stricter doping laws, Brazilians ran 16.080. Brazilian racers run under FEI doping rules, which have strict standards against doping and medications. Per the FEI, with the correct forms, you can use Lasix, but the threshold allowed is so low that most don't even bother using it. It's just not worth the risk of disqualification. Brazilians have incorporated endurance-style exercise, as increasing fitness levels has been highly effective as an EIPH prevention method. Let's take a moment to listen to Shannon Kerr speak on her experience in the Brazilian scene.
Welcome to SK Coffee Time, where I talk about the things that I don't want to talk about. The first one is the drug situation. I believe like this: if you want to use drugs in your horses and you know how to do it and you have a great vet and they give you an advantage, by all means do it. It's not illegal in the United States, so why not give yourself that advantage? Here in Brazil, it's a little more complicated because we have kind of like socialism barrel racing. We have judges, everything is ran by one organization, and we do have drug testing at a lot of our events. I follow the rules, and here the rules are that. Now, if I go to America, maybe I would give some Banamine or Dex or Lasix if I felt like the horse needed it. But here in Brazil, if you get caught, it's a 6-month suspension and a 38,000 Brazilian dollar fine. So it's just not worth it to me. But you know what it's made me do? It's made me amp up my fitness program, my feeding program, my supplement program. It made me become a better trainer. It made me get fitter. It made me learn more about supplements. Even though I know a lot about nutrition already, that's what I studied in college, it's made me even amp that up more. And one thing I've learned from it all is if you get your horses truly fit, and that'll be in our next coffee time video, you don't need as much as you think. You really won't. So my theory on drugs is if it's legal and you're not breaking any rules and you've talked to your vet and you're comfortable with what you're doing, do it. If you want to run without drugs, do that too. And just know that it is absolutely possible to run without drugs. But you're going to have to step it up as a trainer, as a horse owner, and get your horse fitter, get your horse in better shape if you want to go the no drug route.
While Americans are chattering away that many horses would no longer be able to compete with stricter or any drug policy, Brazilians are proving otherwise, and they're doing it while turning out faster times with longer-lasting horses. One barrel racer shared her experience with using Lasix after her horse had a bleed. She did all of the right things. The horse bled in humid weather with poor air quality, stating had she known, she never would have run him. The bleed was minor, but it still didn't sit right with her, so she gave him 2 months off, bought a nebulizer, and just let him heal. When the time came, she started back running lightly and choosing to use Lasix just in case. Given the nature of Lasix, she made sure he had plenty of electrolytes and further supported him with amino acids, vitamin E, magnesium, and lysine. She also had him on ulcer guard and probiotics. She had done everything right. On the 4th of July, she entered a race where she was supposed to have 5 runs potentially back-to-back. While her horse wasn't as fit as he could be, he was fit, and it shouldn't have been an issue. But by their 3rd run, she knew something was off. She had no more horse left. He was exhausted and just clearly not happy. One rodeo after that, her horse was still just tired. She chose not to run him, but things went from bad to worse. She states how he began shedding weight. He became anxious before a run, and after the run, he just became more anxious. The change in this horse was so drastic, she began to be able to tell exactly when the Lasix would hit. She played with dosage and timing, but nothing really helped or made a difference. So she did the only thing that was left for her to do. She stopped the Lasix. His physical condition took a downhill turn. She relied on regeneration, oils, and a nebulizer routinely. His breathing got better. He wasn't bleeding, and most of all, her horse was just happier. A new fitness routine she'd implemented prior just helped further. She believed that the Lasix, combined with having to give it so often, just took too much out of him. Her horse is very lucky to be under the guidance of a true horsewoman. She made a decision. She watched, she assessed, she listened, and when that horse spoke, she course-corrected. I've got her routine paused here, so those of you who might be experiencing the same issue or even just wanting to support your horse's respiratory health can have a read. This was all posted by Kylan Shaw. I hope I didn't butcher her name. She also does some pretty nice leather work. And as a side note, heart arrhythmia, which we know can be caused by Lasix, is absolutely a cause of anxiety. So it makes me wonder if that's not part of what's happening, and I do wonder how often it happens where the horse is maybe just given the excuse of being hyped up or excitable, which then makes me wonder how far that goes into people using sedatives. You see how slippery of a slope this becomes? In 2022, Barrel Horse News shared an article they published back in 2012. And oh boy, was their audience big mad. There are numerous comments on that post of people criticizing Barrel Horse News for sharing it, that PETA is foaming at the mouth to ban barrel racing, that HISA is going to get involved, so on and so forth. So for those of you that don't know, the reason that HISA, the Horse Integrity and Safety Act, exists is because self-governance ultimately failed. If it happens to barrel racing, and frankly it sounds like it needs to, you will be deserving of it for not being better, more accountable horsemen. If you're truly doing nothing wrong, why are you so worried about the perception? After all, the number of people across social media being proud of what they're doing is in no short supply.
So there was a great discussion last night on one of the barrel racing forums on Facebook about monovids and chlorpromazine. And this individual was asking, which do you prefer, how to use it, and so on. the number one thing that I think, or I know that people get very, very, very discouraged and confused in is when they try something and it doesn't work, or they don't get the result that maybe they see other people getting. With pharmaceuticals, the milligram is something that you really, really, really need to pay attention to, because even though Becky says that she uses half a cc of Bonavins 30 minutes out, and her horse is absolutely perfect, cocktail mix is absolutely perfect, and you go to your vet and you try the same thing and you don't get that result, what you need to ask Becky is what's her milligram and what pharmaceutical company is compounding her medication. I have chlorpromazine that I get from a certain vet that's not my regular vet, that I feel like that chlorpromazine it's stout. I haven't found any other chlorpromazine that matches it, and actually the longer it ages, the better it is. Now, if there's any scientific proof behind that, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter, because I'm just telling you from like my use. If it's like a year old and it's starting to discolor a little bit, ooh, it's real good.
Prize money is getting bigger, ethics are getting more slippery, and barrel racing has a very limited opportunity to decide to do better themselves and begin enforcing their own doping standards, including issuing drug tests, or they'll end up having a third party decide for them. You only need to look at the Tennessee walking horse to see how that all goes. Now, obviously, there is some hope, because the people who made me aware of this are barrel racers. The 2 articles that have been published on this issue, the author of one of them is a barrel racer, the other is posted on a barrel horse publication. So I'm going to talk to you all for a second. You have to organize for the sake of your sport. I'm not saying you have to start a whole new organization or anything like that, but you can definitely stir up some change if you organize and start applying a little pressure to organizations. There's still plenty to cover in the world of barrel racing, but this video is long enough. Until next time, thank you for watching.